Hyderistan, Sadikistan, Furqanistan, Usmanistan, and Bangistan. These were all names proposed for Muslim majority areas within the Indian subcontinent. But in the end, history tells us only one name stuck. Multiple accounts exist as to when and where the word Pakistan was coined, and the man credited Chaudhry Rahmat Ali. Some say Chaudhry Rahmat Ali wrote it on a wall in his home in Cambridge. One account suggests that Chaudhry Rahmat Ali conceived the word along the river Thames. His secretary, Miss Frost, said it happened on a London bus ride. But only because the word was coined did the Indian press have a faint chance in 1940 to mockingly dub the Lahore Resolution as the Pakistan Resolution, and Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah was grateful for this unintended favor. Because even the malintent of powers opposing the creation of Pakistan made a contribution towards its inevitable inception. One word, Pakistan, eradicated the vagueness of terms used in the Lahore Resolution. One word, Pakistan, crystallized clearly the aspirations of 90 million Muslims. One word, Pakistan, became the history of one nation, one destiny. Allama Muhammad Iqbal, in his historic Allahabad address of 1930, said, "I would like to see the Punjab, the northwest frontier province, Sindh and Balochistan amalgamated into one single state. This appears to me the final destiny of the Muslims." The origins of this final destiny are found within two major revisions to the All India Muslim League's original vision set in 1906 to only protect Muslim identity, rights and interests within the larger British India. And in 1930, the tenets of this mission were redefined. The idea of Muslim states within British India started gaining momentum. One greater nation of which Muslim majority areas should have adequate provincial autonomy. And only after 1946 elections was this notion of provincial autonomy abandoned for a greater and a more ultimate cause, a determined history for a separate homeland. Two questions are raised: from representation to autonomy, and from autonomy to a call for a separate nation. Why did the Muslim League's original vision change? What happened that significantly altered the course of history for Muslims in British India? Every year on March 23rd, Pakistan celebrates a display of identity, a march of unity, and greener skies full of national pride. And it is in the historical origins of this celebration that we find answers to the two questions. On March 22, 1940, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah gave a landmark speech at Minto Park, Lahore. It is within this speech a climax to Muslim suffering is highlighted, and it is within this speech a resolution to Muslim suffering is also tabled. 1935 to 1940 was a definitive period of Muslim history in the subcontinent. In 1935, the Government of India Act was introduced, a provisional constitution handed by the British Crown for the establishment of self-governance within British India. On the basis of the Act, provincial elections were held in 1937. These elections made three things very clear. The first one, divide we fall. The Muslim had no united voice. The Indian Congress did not represent the 90 million Muslims. The Muslim League also did not represent those 90 million Muslims of the subcontinent. Their representation was in fact divided amongst differing regional parties. In the aftermath of the Muslim League's loss, an important conclusion emerged: a Hindu Congress. With a majority government formed, the Indian Congress made clear its purpose, pushing forward a Hindu nationalism. A national Hindu flag was raised. Hindi was now to be the national language, and the Vande Mataram became the national song enforced upon all. The Pirpur Report of 1939 officially highlighted steps the Indian Congress took in silencing Muslim identity, rights and interests. 90 million people, the Muslims of India, were lied to, misrepresented and thoroughly oppressed, to an extent that even they started believing in a relegated minority status. In his famous speech of 22nd March 1940, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah said,
"There are two major nations, the Hindus and Muslims. Hundreds of millions of Muslims cannot be characterized as a minority."
With regional Muslim parties having realized the dangers of Indian Congress, and with the setup of district and provincial Muslim leagues across the subcontinent, all Muslim parties now pledged allegiance to the Muslim League. To fight the Hindu Congress under a banner of unity no longer was the Muslim voice in disharmony. Under the context of this unity at the backdrop of injustice, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah gave his address to the now united Muslims of India. The Lahore Resolution was tabled as significant revision to the League's cause. The resolution rejected the Government of India Act 1935 because it was totally unsuited to the peculiar conditions of this country and is altogether unacceptable to Muslims of India. Muslims would not accept any revised constitutional plan unless it was framed with their consent and approval. The area in which the Muslims are numerically in a majority, as in northwestern and eastern zones of India, shall become independent states in which the constituent units shall be autonomous and sovereign. There will be adequate, effective and mandatory safeguards for religious minorities in the Muslim majority units for the protection of their religious, cultural, economic, political, administrative and other rights. And lastly, a constitutional scheme is to be formed on the basis of the principles outlined in the resolution. It is this document that acted as a constitutional figure embodying the united voice of Muslims. It is the Lahore Resolution that allowed for the conception of Pakistan post 1946 elections. And it is March 23rd that is an ode to a resolution forever etched in the walls of history. Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah awakened the Muslim conscience, and August 14, 1947 became the reality of an organized Muslim awakening, an awakening of one nation, one destiny.
There is no power on earth that can undo Pakistan.